why don't we take a step back and
Yeah.
go back to April, Chicago,
Yes,
Loyola
sorry.
University. No worries.
Yeah. Yeah, we jumped ahead to June. We're in April. So again, we're on this three-leg tour of Urban Latino. We go to Chicago, and luckily for us, we have fraternity brothers in Chicago, and specifically Juan Vergara, Ver Gara, Vergara, was at Loyola University at the time in Chicago, and this is when, again, we were 4 years into planning shows, and so I wasn't an expert. I didn't know too much about the audio, the visual, the lighting, staging. I wasn't, that great, but Juan was physically in Chicago, and he basically did all the legwork for getting us locked in and confirmed. At Loyola, we built a stage. So we did it in one of their gyms, their basketball gymnasiums. We built a stage. We had a stage built. They had their bleacher seating. And in Chicago, again, so because SLB and SLG win in Florida, that helps us get their participation in Chicago. Because I know they were, orgs talk within themselves. So SLG and SLB, I'm sure, were thinking that they can win Chicago since their brothers won Florida, which is fine, which is great for us. So we get their participation. And then we meet Gamma Phi Omega International Sorority in Chicago. I think, do we meet Gamma Alpha Omega at this time as well, or was it just?
Yeah, that was a feisty one. Stacy Malacara.
Stacy Malacara. Yes. And then, so so at some point with Sigma Lambda Gamma, something happens where they threaten to boycott our show. Was this? This wasn't the show. I think it was a show after this, right? Yes. Right. So in the future, you'll get to hear about a national boycott, possible fiasco that happens. But so, all right, we stick to the Chicago show. I don't remember the teams that actually participated, but I do. It was Omega Phi Beta, Chi Epsilon Sigma, Sigma Lambda Gamma, and I want to say Alpha Rho Lambda.
No, LTO was also
okay. And what about the fraternity side? Do you remember?
The fraternity side was definitely Sigma Lambda Beta, the local team. I think LUL flew in for this one, or I can't. I have such a poor memory on kind of the show, but I think LUL was there because they were trying to qualify. LAU was definitely, Lambda Alpha Upsilon was definitely there because I remember Starkey.
I remember their bats. I remember they had bats on stage. So yes.
Yeah, and I think LUL wasn't there. LAU was, and there was a third fraternity, maybe a local group. I want to say OD5, but I'm not sure if they were into us yet.
No. I don't think so. All right, so I end up hosting the show with Jessica Morales, surely out of necessity, not because I wanted to. I never liked being on stage. I always preferred being backstage. But yeah, we host the show. I don't even remember who won this show. Do you remember who won the Chicago show? Lambda Tau Omega won.
Lambda Tau Omega, and I think Cuz tied at the top. I think.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we have it written here. Sorry. It's Chicago show, get on the bus to Chicago tour. Lambda Alpha Upsilon wins, and Chi Upsilon Sigma ties with Lambda Tau Omega for first place.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, so kudos to Lambda Alpha Upsilon. Yeah, all right, so that was Chicago. Chicago is done. We move on to our next show, which happens to be in June, that we discussed. Anything you want to say about Chicago before we move on?
No, I mean, just one thing you touched on, and I remembered after Miami and then after Chicago is, I think the sentiment across the Greek scene was, that the East Coast had the best teams, had it on lock, and sure enough, you go to Florida and two New York teams win. You go to Chicago and two East Coast team wins there, three East Coast teams win. So it's almost like the balance is kind of like returning. And again, we were making adjustments to the judging because we knew it was not optimal the first few times. So I know that coming into New York, we felt this comfort of like, yes, we're back home again, and we know kind of like the elements. We can walk into the venues. We can touch and feel everything before the show. So this was an exciting time. We didn't lose money on Chicago because I don't think we paid for Loyola, so it was a small profit at the end of it, but still, we had a long way to go.
Right. Yeah. So that's a great summary. And then so again, out of necessity, we ended up having to do in a show, Silk and Smooth #1 in New York in June, 1 month before our big July 19th. And I remember the struggle that we had to kind of deal with was that, unfortunately, the same teams that were on the step team typically were on the stroll teams, just because if you were on a step team, you were pretty coordinated, you had a lot of rhythm, you were rhythmic, and those same people do have transferable skill sets to strolling. So the issue was that now you had the same group of people practicing for two different shows simultaneously, which just makes it difficult and complicated for for teams and for these people. So but again, so we were doing a show in June. It was June 8th at Columbia. I don't remember the show itself too much. I do remember having really good attendance. I'm gonna assume it was profitable. Do you remember? Oh, you said okay. So the really different thing about this one was that, like Jesus mentioned, it was like the winner was based on crowd participation, which makes for, and I think a part of our thinking was, well, if the crowd decides, then more people will be in the crowd, and then we can get more people to come to the show, and if more people come to the show, we can be more profitable, and with more profitability, we can do more things for the business. So that was, I think, a deciding reason, and also because we were just whole new to the rules things. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So a lot of things I remember about this show. Because it was round robin, we also had a lot. So our reputation was now ahead of us, even though we weren't making money. Like, people knew about our shows, and that was great. I mean, we had at the stroll competition, we had about 10 sororities and about 5 fraternities participate. So it was a large 15 teams. We had, as Anthony mentioned, because it was Apollo style, where the crowd decides the winners. There was possibility that a team would have needed to prepare, let's say, 6 strolls to get to the final round, which was just a lot to ask for any teams to create 6 different stroll events and coordinate those. And then I do remember, because I was in the crowd, like monitoring the door and staying in between. And I do remember at one point in this show, it's either the Lambda Pis and the Sigma and the Upsilon sisters, like going back and forth, screaming, chanting at each other from the crowd perspective. And I do remember Renata McNeil, who was the MC for this event. I do remember her having to come out at one point and kind of say Greek unity like 10 times in a row on the microphone, because it was so heated. Like, there was so much energy, again, like bad energy amongst teams, that it was like really building some strong rivalry in the audience. And I remember thinking, as I'm standing in the audience, like, oh no, a fight's about to break out and we don't have any security anywhere around. So
No, I mean, yeah, now that you mentioned that, okay, so I wasn't on your side. So basically, Jesus, so here's another dynamic between when we work together, is that I like putting Jesus at the front, at the door with the money, because he was the only one I could trust with the money. So basically, that's why he worked the door, took the money a lot of times, and yeah, he managed the door 90% of the time. I managed the backstage, and I made sure that teams were on, and the show went on when it was supposed to go on. But yeah, I do vaguely remember that type of kind of heated, energy, like negative energy almost. And yeah, I do remember Renata having, and it's unfortunate that college kids have to, whatever, young adults have to take it there and take it to a negative turn. But luckily, nothing happened. We did have security there. There wasn't a lot of security, but yeah. So, anything else you remember? I don't remember who won this show, or do we have it here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do.
Go for it.
So basically, yeah, Apollo style, which means crowd decides, crowd chant, crowd noise, round robin. The results was LUL beats out LSU. Lambda Pi Chi beats out Lambda Pi Upsilon. Yeah, so that was it. I guess that was a good win for LUL. And again, so another dynamic of these events was that when a big organization wins, it's good for business. Like if LUL wins, so SLB and SLG winning in Florida, yes, personally, nothing had to do with the business. It was good for them, but I think it was also good for business at the time. Even though in my mind I didn't understand why Sigma and the Beta team would beat out an LSU or LUL. I think overall it was good for business that SLG won. What do you say? I didn't see it then because I actually didn't even know the scope of how big they were. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, we learned that lesson future shows, but yeah, you're right. It was fortunate for us that the local big organizations were winning at some level. And then it also started to rebrand us in a way that we didn't see until later on. But basically, teams were identifying that our show was so big that if you win our show, you can bring your interests, you can, market your organization in a different way, showing off, that you are number one at this element. And so people started bringing their interest to the events, and it was really growing at the time, and not only was urban Latino participating and watching everything and seeing these growing audiences, but also competitors were identifying that we are the truth in New York City. And it's not just me self-proclaiming it, like we were legitimately the only ones doing them at scale that we were. So, it was an exciting time. And as we rolled into the July event, and I don't know if there's more you wanted to talk about with Silk, but as we rolled into the July event, the one thing that we knew was broken after the Silk one, if you will, was that the round robin style judging was not going to necessarily work in year two. So that's one big takeaway that came out of that one.
Yeah, I agree. We decided to go with round robin for the excitement of it, for the newness of it, for the it might bring up more people, but in the end we realized it was a terrible decision. It was like a really bad thing to do. But again, we were learning, we were trying different things. So, but the fact that LUL won Silk, the first Silk, was a good thing for them. I think it was good for New York City, for us, for our business in terms of New York. So that's in June 8th. Then July 19th, a month, a little more than a month later, we do our LatinosStep finals national championship. That's what it was. It was a national competition. I don't think we called it a national championship. I guess we should have, but I think we were just a little humble, maybe, and not wanting to call it a national championship.
Oh no, we called it that.
Oh, we did? Okay.
And,
all right, great. It was.
Yeah. Hold on. I don't know if you remember this, but on the website, whenever we put images like of flyers or whatever, you could roll over a flyer and then a little alt message was going to come up. And I'm looking at the Wayback Machine right now. It shows for this show, the July 2002 championship, not only did we call it the first ever National Latino Greek Step Tournament, but we also, on the alt tag, the best LG step show in the country.
Wow. That's
braggadocious.
That is braggadocious. I love it. Yeah, when you're young, it's okay to be braggadocious, I guess. That's how you got to do it. So all right. So then all right. So June is done. Next month is July. So this show. So I've always liked. Well, the Bronx is my least favorite borough of all of the boroughs in New York City. So I had very little expectations going to Lehman College, but once I saw this venue is amazing. This venue is like wow, like Gilbert. They have like legit concerts at Lehman. You know this performing arts center. Like Gilberto Santa Rosa performed. I'm sure like a ton of people perform there. It's not cheap. I think it was like $10,000 back in those days too, uh, to book it. So this show is important because we get a great turnout, and then the company that goes on to make us an acquisition offer is at this show. And I'm not sure. I remember Frank and Dave went, and I remember knowing in advance that Dave Chattel from Ay Caramba was going to be at this show, right? Does that sound right to you? Like, yeah, I think they had contacted us. I think he contacted us because he wanted to make sure he'd be able to get in without a problem. And I'm cool with making people feel good and important and special. That's fine. So comes, they come, and I remember we have a long line for this show. People are waiting to get in, and it was like a completely full, crowd. So let's see what I have here in my notes. So then, so competing in this show, we have Lambda Sigma Upsilon, sorry, Sigma Lambda Beta, Lambda Upsilon Lambda, and then we have was Sigma Lambda Gamma in this show? Yes, Sigma Lambda Gamma from California, right? Wow.
They qualified. Mm-hmm.
They qualified, but from Cali? What?
No, Florida. The Florida team that won. Oh, wait. Yeah, it's the Florida team that won the Florida show has been flown in because they qualified in the Miami event.
Got it. And then Lambda Tau Omega is in the show because they qualified. Lambda Tau Omega had a pretty decent squad back then, and then Chi Epsilon Sigma was also there. And then we have another No, we don't have another qualifying event. Sorry. Yeah. So, all right. Do you remember who won these shows? This is.
So yeah, I have here just from the website Sigma on the Beta and Sigma on the Gamma won in Miami, so they were flown in.
Yes. Yep.
Lambda Alpha Upsilon, Chi Epsilon Sigma Lambda Tau Omega won in Chicago, so they were already local, but they were a part of it. And then the winning fraternity was Lambda Sigma Upsilon for sure. I remember Omar's team taking the first year. And the winning sorority is going to kill me because we should know this because we had banners.
I think it was Lambda Pi Chi. I have here in the notes.
No? I don't know. No, they couldn't have been because they won the
school
show.
Sigma Lambda Gamma won it.
Yeah, Sigma Lambda Gamma. Yes, they won it. Sigma Lambda Gamma. You're right.
From Florida.
They won it all, and that was a surprise to all of us. They came up to New York and took out everybody. Was
Omega Phi Beta not in this show? Your favorite sorority?
I can't imagine they weren't. But
your favorite sorority?
I can't imagine they weren't. But let me look it up as we're talking.
All right. So if they were in this show, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to add additional context is that at this point we made it a whole weekend, so we called it LatinosStep Weekend. It was 4 days. There was like a pre-party on Thursday, a comedy show on Friday, the finals, the event on Saturday, and then on Sunday it was a reunion at the beach. I think we called it Mimosas on the Water or something. Urban had come through finally. Urban Latino. They got us, finally. I think, 5,000 from the U.S. Navy, 5,000 from Nike, and
way overdue.
And so we had some sponsorship,
and we got some used Nike sneakers too in a box that were dropped off in front of.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Nike did come through. I think we sent some of the step teams to Nike to get sized, so they did come through with sneakers. You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so here was a snafu with that whole Nike thing. It's like Nike, Urban hooked us up, but then I think we had somehow we said like the teams would wear Nikes during the show, but then we forgot to realize that you can't really step in a step show with sneakers on, so that wouldn't work. So they end up not wearing, right, the sneakers during their shows because you can't step in a sneaker. Um, so yeah, so that happened, and so like Jesus said, Urban comes through with the money. I'm not sure after that 3 city tour if we were profitable, or we probably weren't. We probably weren't profitable after the 3 city tour, right?
Well,
I think
yeah, the detail there is so financially we were not profitable, but there were other things happening, as Anthony started to touch on, that were bringing notice to what we were doing that would later make us profitable. So do you want to talk about the show a little more, or start?
I honestly don't remember too much of the show. Do you do you remember the show?
I do. I mean, I remember LSU just really kind of doing their show again. Machetes. They did a very similar performance to what they had done, back in Miami. They just took it up a few notches. I remember LUL having a good performance, but the judges I don't think were on their side. So they didn't win, and that frustrated them. I think for us, people knew we were brothers of LUL, so it actually benefited us in that way because LUL wasn't winning everything, and you would think if we were LUL brothers and we had a show, you would think that LUL would win in kind of like in that sequence, but it didn't happen. So it actually allowed. I think it created more of a wow. These guys are neutral. They really are not Greek, and Anthony and I both had made a conscious decision at the time to not tell anyone we were Greek, even though people somewhat knew. We just never made that a part of the business conversation.
Yeah, we never wore letters. We never discussed it. We never wrote it anywhere. We tried to be as non-Greek as possible. And we not for nothing. We ran this business, you know, like that, like non-partisan, if you will, you know. And funny enough, LUL, I don't remember ever any of them teams asking us for a favor. I don't remember. Because I probably would have said yes, but I don't remember ever them. You know, I just always remember having a problem getting them in the show, not because they didn't want to be in the show, because they just couldn't organize themselves to be in a show or find enough. You always need one strong leader on a team. In order for a team, one of these type of teams to be successful, you need one strong leader and you need longevity in that position, because you can't have turnover in these types of you know teams, because turnover equals inconsistency, and that doesn't breed championship winning. So yeah, so all right, so then Lehman College was a success, not financially, but again, when you're starting a business like we were, like we weren't super concerned with making money. Yes, it's important, but like if you can continue to float your business, something may good happen down the line, which does end up happening to us.